Confused messaging today on the opening of the Strait of Hormuz.
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 One specific topic has been in the news recently. You may have noticed the Strait of Hormuz, a stretch of water just 21 miles wide at its narrowest part. But why is this strait so important? That its closure for less than 2 months has had vast consequences for the global economy. Well, to figure that out, we must take a look at what makes this strait so special. Also, what is the quality of this video? 360p ABC News? Come on. Located just off the coast of Iran and Oman, the Strait of Hormuz is a narrow body of water connecting the Persian Gulf to the open ocean. It's only about 21 miles wide. That might not sound like a lot, but for massive oil tankers, military ships, and constant two-way traffic, it's actually incredibly tight. There are only a couple of designed shipping lanes in each direction, separated by a small buffer zone, which means if anything goes wrong, an attack, a blockade, even a single damaged ship, it can disrupt traffic almost instantly. Similar to what we've seen with the Suez Canal in the past, one damaged ship like the Evergreen could put a massive strain on the global economy. But unlike the Suez Canal, the Strait of Hormuz is different. It's all about energy. Roughly 20% of the world's oil passes through the Strait of Hormuz. Countries like Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Kuwait, and the United Arab Emirates all rely on this route to export their oil. China and India have historically had the biggest stake in these exports, although South Korea and Japan are largely reliant on the strait for oil as well. So when the Strait of Hormuz is threatened, we can expect the global economy to feel it. China has attempted several times to mediate the war between the United States and Iran because of how important Hormuz oil is for their growth. All the while, Russia is funding Iran and using the war between Iran and the United States to capitalize on the limited oil exports. Because when oil exports from the strait go down, Russian oil profits go up. Russian oil revenue has doubled from the war, in fact, from around $4 billion to $9 billion US dollars. Looking at historical examples of the strait's importance, we can draw a few ideas as to why the strait is so significant. All the way back to the 1500s, the Strait of Hormuz has historically been a path for trade. The Portuguese first used the strait to collect tolls from trade ships passing through, even issuing cartaças, which are licenses to trade in the region. After the English took control of the area, 200 years of control, they used control of the strait to pressure the then government of Iran, an incident eerily similar to what is seen with the US and Iran today. From the tanker war in 1984 between Iran and Iraq, an incident where control of the strait was used to wage war, to the threats by Iran to close the strait in 2012 in response to embargoes of Iranian oil, the history points a clear picture of why the strait is so important. Power. Power over trade, power over energy, and power over war itself. After all, when so much trade passes through this narrow body of water, naturally every major country will suddenly have a stake in the region. And this brings us to why the Strait of Hormuz is so popular in media today. Competing global interests. Putin, while it may seem like he wants to end the war with a win for Tehran, as it continues to provide the Islamic State intelligence data through Russian satellites and advanced anti-air systems, the war itself continues to provide massive benefits for Russia's own war in Ukraine. This is due to the skyrocketing oil prices worldwide. Once again, Russia's oil and gas revenue has doubled from the war, which accounts for a fifth of the government's total budget. Now obviously, Moscow's interest to lengthen the war, despite their alliance with Ukraine, shows the divide in international responses to the issue. China, unlike Russia, is on the complete opposite end of the spectrum. The PRC has continued to purchase Iranian oil and supply dual-use goods, but has refrained from direct military support because they want the war ended as soon as possible. Of course, their insistence on maintaining a diplomatic role in foreign affairs comes into play, but it is clear that the war threatens their bottom line, the growth that China values so dearly. Check out the linked video for more information on the topic. China has been widely seen in media recently due to their mediation efforts, even recently backing Pakistan to maintain the ceasefire between the US and Iran. Once again, this would suggest that a major reason the Strait of Hormuz is so popular, at least in the media, is because of how complicated the international interests in the region are. Russia, unlike China, has pushed for the war to continue in order to further the benefits received from oil revenue, extending its popularity in the current media focus Obviously, if the whole of the international media agreed on a coordinated response to the region, there would likely not be a state like China pushing for mediation efforts, or a state like Russia continuing the window of interest on the subject. So in the end, even though the Strait of Hormuz remains important due to its impact on the global economy, the complicated international interests in the region have proliferated a large media focus to the 21-mile wide body of water. So when you see it in the news again, just remember that it's only there because of how complicated the global stage is. Perhaps a perfect world would be filled with the most boring news articles you've ever seen. That was VNN, your weekly dose of interesting news topics.